Okay, guys. This video, we're just going to look at mutually exclusive events, independent events, dependent events, and just probably just helping you understand the context of each of them. In terms of how you solve a probability, how to work it out probability, whether it's through a two-step process with or without replacement, whether it's through a tree diagram or two-way table, it's all the same. Okay. It's just understanding what's possible and what's not possible through the context of things. So I'm just going to go through each of the three and hopefully help you understand what they are. So mutually exclusive events are two events that cannot occur at the same time. So two events that cannot both occur at the same time. Okay. So, for example, if you were to like a deck of cards, you draw a card from a standard deck. The drawn card is a heart or a club. Okay. Now it's mutually exclusive because you can't draw a card out of the deck that is both a heart and a club. Okay, so those two events, event one being hearts, event two being clubs, they are mutually exclusive. You can't have both at the same time. Okay, another example is probably, if you were to take a flight overseas, a plane flight, and you go somewhere, and what is the probability of being late or early? Okay, and those two events of being late or early are mutually exclusive because you can't be both. You can't be late and early at the same time. All right, so hopefully that helps you understand what mutually exclusive events are. Okay. In terms of non-mutually exclusive events, obviously it's things that it is possible to have the two events happening at the same time. So going back to the standard deck of cards, let's say the two events was a heart or a king. Okay, so you can actually draw a king of hearts. That card is possible. You can have the two events occurring, so they are non-mutually exclusive because the two events can occur at the same time. All right, great. So let's move on to independent events. Okay. And independent means that you do not rely on something else. That's what independent means. And I guess you could kind of relate it to growing up. And we are, children are dependents of their parents because they are dependent on everything, food, shelter, all that kind of stuff. So independent events, when one event does not rely on another one occurring. So let's just say if you had two dice, okay, that you rolled, and you want to know what the probability of, rolling an even number in one dice and then rolling an odd number in the second dice, the rolling of the first dice does not affect the rolling of the second one. And the second roll of the second dice is not dependent on what you get in the first one. Okay, so two events that don't rely on another, or we could just say an event that does not rely on another event outcome. Okay, so e.g. Two dice, the first roll and the second roll, they are not related. Okay, all right. So then when it comes to dependent events, then the case is that yes, one event does rely on the other one. Okay, so an event that does rely on another event occurring. Okay, cool. So an example, all right, and so we could kind of relate it to real life events, perhaps. So the chance of rain today and the chance of a person taking an umbrella to work. Obviously, you would be expecting to think that they are dependent. You'd want to take an umbrella to work if it's raining, or if you have a high chance of rain occurring, there's a high chance of the umbrella occurring as well. Okay, because there's no point in taking an umbrella if it's not raining. Okay, so those two events are together, and the event of taking an umbrella is dependent on the rain happening. Okay, the chance of growing healthy vegetables and the availability of good soil. So this is going to be helping Mr. Fisher with his garden. Obviously, if you have bad soil, you can't expect good crops and good veggies. So one is dependent of the other. And let's say drawing a card at random, not replacing it, and then drawing another card. So in the previous video, we were looking at replacing and without replacing events. Obviously, when you take something out and you don't replace it, that does impact the second outcome. So the previous video, we were looking at at counters, blue and red counters, and when you replace the counter back into the bag, it resets, so therefore it is independent. It doesn't affect the first outcome, doesn't affect the second outcome. But when you take something out of the bag and it doesn't get replaced, then that second event does get affected, which makes it dependent. Okay, great. So if that's just a quick way to describe each of those things. As I said, in terms of how you calculate and solve the probability, no different to what we've done in the previous videos. Got any questions? Let me know. Otherwise, see you in the next one.